First, they came for the liturgy, then for discipline. Now they're intervening in the law. And it all happens in the name of a word that dominates contemporary ecclesiastical vocabulary: synodality. This is not an impression. The facts are public. Archbishop Filippo Iannone, Prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops and President of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America, he declared, without hesitation, that resistance to synodality does not arise from structural or doctrinal problems, but from a lack of conversion. This is a statement that deserves careful analysis, because here a crucial shift occurs. Dissent is no longer placed on the theological level, but on the spiritual. The argument is not debated. The inner state of those raising objections is assessed. According to Iannone, Pope Francis called the Church to synodal renewal, not to introduce an innovative idea, but out of fidelity to the gospel and the ecclesiology of Lumen Gentium. And Pope Leo XIV, it is reiterated, continues to guide the Church along this same path. No discontinuity, no pause for reflection. The process continues. Here lies the first point of contention. If synodality is presented as fidelity to the gospel and the council, then any hesitation risks appearing as infidelity. If the problem is not doctrinal, but spiritual, the questioner is not a critical interlocutor, but a believer in need of conversion. The category of conversion is thus applied not to personal moral life, but to adherence to an ecclesial paradigm. The official narrative emphasizes one concept: unity as a dynamic reality. Communion is seen as a historical journey of the people of God, a deepening of their baptismal identity and their ministerial dimension. It's evocative language, but we must ask, what does it mean concretely? Where does the hierarchical structure desired by Christ fit into this scheme? Dynamics risk becoming fluid. Ministerial identity risks becoming widespread participation. And when categories become flexible, law becomes the primary area of intervention. And that's exactly what's happening. A commission has been established to develop proposals for the revision of the Code of Canons of the Eastern Churches, promulgated in 1990 and entered into force in 1991. A text regulating the life of the Eastern Catholic Churches, sui juris, in full communion with Rome, but with their own traditions, liturgies, and disciplines. A system parallel to the Latin Code of 1983. The revision will take place in light of the synodal journey. This expression is not neutral. It's not simply a technical update. It's about harmonization in the context of the new synodal ecclesiology. The Eastern churches are not a folkloristic detail of Catholic universality. They represent ancient traditions, their own synodal structures, and a different balance between patriarch, synod, and Roman primacy. Their autonomy is not an administrative concession, but a historical and theological recognition. Intervening on their rights means impacting their identity. The critical point is clear. Synodality, born as a consultative process, becomes a normative criterion. What was once a process becomes a legal parameter. And when a pastoral paradigm translates into a revision of the law, the transformation is no longer merely linguistic. There's talk of fostering unity, but what kind of unity? A unity that respects the legitimate plurality of traditions, or a unity that tends toward uniformity? The history of the Church demonstrates that Catholic unity has never meant uniformity. The risk today is that harmony will be interpreted as alignment. In the current context, the issue cannot be isolated. In recent years, we have witnessed restrictive measures against the traditional Latin liturgy. Ecclesial communion has been used to justify these limitations. Synodality is now being used to justify revisions to Eastern law. The common thread is clear. What appears to be consolidated diversity is gradually being reduced to a dominant ecclesial model. Some might say these are unfounded fears. Yet words matter. When one claims that resistance stems from a lack of conversion, one preemptively delegitimizes the debate. When we speak of dynamic unity, we introduce a category that can justify profound transformations. When we establish a commission to review Eastern law within the synodal framework, we are taking an action that transcends mere theory. Canon law is not simply an internal regulation. It is the expression of an ecclesiological vision. Changing the law means changing the concrete structure of the Church. And if Eastern law is reinterpreted according to the current synodal paradigm, we must ask ourselves which elements will be considered harmonized. The Eastern churches have their own synods, autonomous liturgical traditions, different marital disciplines, and a conception of patriarchate with specific characteristics. Can all this remain intact, or will it be reinterpreted to foster greater integration into the synodal model promoted universally? It is claimed that Pope Leo XV continues the path. Continuity is presented as a guarantee of stability. But continuity with respect to what point? If the starting point is a process still evolving, continuity means consolidating a paradigm not yet fully embraced by the entire ecclesial body. The rift isn't between progressives and conservatives. The rift is between two conceptions of the Church. On the one hand, a vision that emphasizes the sacramental, hierarchical, and doctrinal dimensions as a permanent structure. On the other hand, a vision that accentuates the historical dynamic, the journey, the process. It's legitimate to ask questions. It's legitimate to seek clarification. It's not a sign of a lack of conversion to question reforms that affect the identity of the Eastern churches. On the contrary, it's an act of ecclesial responsibility. The question, ultimately, is simple and at the same time decisive. Is synodality a tool at the service of tradition, or does it become a criterion that reinterprets tradition itself? What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.